Good morning. It is Saturday, October 18, 2025. Calling on another day after a run. Not calling, I'm making another video. I have a couple things I wanted to think about talking about, but I think I've got one topic I wanted to talk about today. So I recently watched some videos from an individual. His name is Adam Livingston, and he posts daily videos about Bitcoin and his own perspective about investments. And he's a pretty young guy, very charismatic, very energetic, very entertaining. I'm sharing a lot of thoughts, particularly around Bitcoin. He had a video recently, I'll put it in the show notes below, about how a 401k is a scam. And he posted about it on Twitter, and man, did he get a lot of vitriolic responses back. And I found this kind of resonating because I've thought about this quite a bit and made my own unique decisions early in my life, and kind of changed those decisions later on in terms of investing. But I think this all is actually kind of important, especially for young people, because there's been a lot to unwind about how the world perceives investing and money. So money is a medium that allows for the transformation of energy across space and time. I think this is a really important concept to try to grasp, because once you grasp it, like, everything changes. I've heard there's certain Bitcoiners like Jack Mallers or Jeff Booth that kind of talk along this lines. Not everybody does. A lot of people are kind of money go up sort of individuals who think about these ideas, but I really think there's something there. Money is a medium that allows for you to transform energy across space and time. And once this clicks, and once you get that, I didn't always get that, but once you get it, like, it totally changes your perspective about everything else in life, in terms of how you use your time and energy across in space and time. Acknowledging memento mori, said famously by Marcus Aurelius, that to remember that you will die, remembering that you are mortal, and yet your time is limited. But you have the capacity in your life to transform energy across space and time. So how do you want to do that before your time is over? But I bring this back to the idea of investing in 401ks and things like that. I mentioned in a prior video, I was lucky enough to invest some money into Bitcoin relatively early on. Back when I initially did, I was a medical resident, and residency is kind of your first job, not necessarily your highest pay. And I think at the time, you get your new orientation, and everybody talks to you about a 401k, and they talk to you about it as though it's your first time ever having money, and they talk about the value of it and compound annual growth rate, and why investing now is absolutely the best thing ever, investing early is really good. But here they want you to allocate it into a 401k, and then you don't know exactly what a 401k is, and then the more you dig into it, it's investing in a fund, including multiple stocks run by companies you don't know, all within a portfolio managed by somebody else, in a manner that some experts think is going to grow safely and securely and steadily over time. But you don't know any of those companies, and you don't know how that's going to happen. So you don't even know whether they're aligned with your value system, your morals, or what you want, how you want to transform your energy across space and time. So you just kind of do that, and then assume it's going to grow. But the thing, I didn't have much money at the time, so I did invest in Bitcoin instead. Not necessarily at the amount of the people allocating a 401k, but anyhow, it was. It was a good decision. Long story short, but I've chained that. I've chained my decision throughout my life. I continue to work as a physician, and there are times that I've allocated into a 401k, and there are times I haven't. And I think, a lot of 401. I think Adam Livingston talked about a lot of 401ks. Most 401ks don't allow you to self invest into specific stocks or specific funds or ETFs like Bitcoin or like gold. You can only do these specific preset funds that you want. With my old employer, I was fortunate enough to be able to self-direct almost as much as I wanted into things like Bitcoin and things like that. But so that's very good. But for a lot of people, they can't do that. And I've watched different things grow. And right now in my life, I'm 41 years old. I'm really captivated by Tim Ferriss and his book, The 4-Hour Work Week. Am I saying it right? I might be saying it wrong, but the whole idea that you don't necessarily retire all the way at the end, but you live your life in different ways, as you're young. This idea is really, really important to me, and I thought about it in the past, and I think about it now after watching Adam's last video. And for most of us are mental athletes. Most of us are mental athletes. And I think about this as a neurologist. No, I'll get to that in a second. But think about regular athletes. Think about professional athletes. Think about LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. These guys made massive amounts of money and produced massive amounts of wealth and transformed their energy across space and time. Particularly, the energy that they really transformed happened when they were young, right? That happened when they were, 18 to 35 years old. And why? And they continue to live their life and live good lives and do good things. And rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. But for individuals like LeBron James or Michael Jordan, they're able to donate into foundations, or as they get older and as their bodies wear out, they're not the athletes that they once were. LeBron James is still performing, but later in their life, as they have accumulated so much wealth, they can transform it in the way that they want, right? So, I think for an intelligent athlete, for an intelligent professional athlete, Saquon Barkley is a perfect example right now. But they recognize that they're young and they have an opportunity because of their abilities at that point in their point in life to transform energy, to produce wealth, and to use their energy, their physical body, to generate energy and to build that wealth and to transform it the way they want to later in their life. So somebody like me is not a professional athlete, right? I'm not a professional basketball player. Who am I? I'm a neurologist. I'm a physician. I'm also, a father and everything, a husband, and everything goes along with that. But my athletics is mental, and for most individuals, your athletics is mental. You're trying to do something with intellectual talent. The neurologist in me recognizes that there are points in our lives where our attention, our memory, our executive function, our memory recall, all of these things really are peaking, at kind of like the point of life that I'm at right now at 41 years old, right? I mean, some of the stuff gets better as you get in as a teenager, as your prefrontal lobe, your frontal lobe may not be fully mature, so you may have issues with impulsivity, but that gets better in your 20s, and then you really do mature and you get more wisdom in your 30s and your 40s, and you still have energy in you and good memory and attention span. But that is gonna fall apart, right? That is gonna fall apart. That's gonna start to decline maybe in your 50s, hopefully not, as long as you remain intellectually strong. And but then, in your 60s and 70s, that's going to start to decline. So your peak mental athletics is a lot when happens at a different distribution. So the professional athletes get their distribution of where they could generate a lot of energy, particularly when they're young, and they take advantage of that. But the rest of us, we don't really do that. And I think the issue of a 401k is one where you don't take advantage of the fact, you don't take advantage of where your prowess, your mental function is at its best to be able to transform that energy, right? You're taking all of your wealth, your ability to generate wealth, and you're passing it, you're deferring it all to after you're 59 and a half years of age. You're deferring it all. And there's other issues too, right? If you invest, you can, and you take out, you pay your long-term capital gains at maybe 21%, if you invest out of a 401k, but then once you start taking out of the 401k, that gets taken out as income tax, and income tax is a significantly higher percentage than a long-term capital gains. So even when you take it out, it's grown, pre-tax. However, when you take it out, you're paying more tax. And I encourage everybody or anybody who thinks about this, just don't necessarily take anybody's opinion. Think about all of this as kind of hypothesis generating. Think about your own situation, and I would encourage you to use something like ChatGPT, Grok, and just like plug in numbers hypothetically to your own situation about where you live, what's the tax, what are the tax rates, how much you expect to be earning, how much wealth do you expect to be dispensing it, out of your 401k later. Just play different scenarios, and then, what if I don't invest in a 401k without a match, and then I put that into another investment where I expect a certain annual compound growth rate, and then what that's going to turn out to. You'll get really interesting numbers, and there's lots of ways you can go about thinking about this without, where you get surprising results. The other main point here that I really want to make is outside of just thinking about the number, crunching the numbers in your 401k, the other thing is also just recognizing you're a mental athlete. And, I am really glad that I didn't put all my investment in a 401k, that I actually have other capital that I invested in that I can pull out of now when I'm 41 years old, so I can start thinking about other projects and other things I want to do that I'm really passionate about. Versus if I put it all in a 401k, if I max out a 401k and didn't have, invest elsewhere, that capital only goes to when I'm 59 and a half years old, when my, mental prowess is not, at its peak. And I kind of want capital before then. I kind of want some capital right now to do the things I really want to do. So we got to think about that. I didn't talk a lot about 401ks, but I don't want to make this necessarily about 401ks. I want to make this about mental athletics. Be like an athlete. Athletes know when they're able to generate wealth the most, and what's the age and peak that they can do that, and that they can transform it later. Understand when you can too, and plan your investments and your strategy and your mental energy accordingly. And don't necessarily go with the flow if people want you to wait until you're too old to use capital to transform energy across space and time. Do it when you think you can really enact the things that make life worth living. So that's my thought for today. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk again soon.